So I just see that a lot of people are entitled, and I do not know what an entitlement mentality is. Or someone called me and said, "Oh, he needed some money. That he was going to bury his mother." So I said, "Send me a account number." I mean, I didn't remember on time, so he now sent me a chat. I said, "Okay, I reminder, oh, send me account number." When I did the transfer to him, you know what happened? He just said, "Alert seen, thanks." I think that the entitlement mentality, as what is what has kept many people from becoming everything that God created them to be. And they will never assess the grace and the mercies of God because of the fact that they come to the table with an entitlement mentality. They think that they that God owes them an approval because of what they have done. Because you showed up in church does not mean that God will bless you. So we must understand that this is exactly why many people do not get being blessed by God. You understand? You see, many people stay in the same conundrum. They are not moving forward because they have an entitlement mentality. How am I going to become a blessing to my generation? And in every field that don't forget to like, love, share with your family, with your friends, and with even your enemies. Thursday, 9 p.m. we'll be here live. Please make sure you join us. Hey, family, welcome to 20 Minutes with Pkay, your weekly dose of wisdom, purpose, and spiritual clarity. If you are ready to grow, if you're ready to transform and rise to become everything that God created you to be, then you are in the right place. So let's dive into today's teaching. I want to talk to you about something that's been very big in my heart. It's called the entitlement mentality. We live in a world that teaches us to claim our rights, to demand that we deserve and accept our worth. We live in a world that has a mindset that seeps into the soul, shaping how we view God, others, and ourselves. It's called an entitlement mentality, the seated belief that we're owed something, that success, we're owed comfort, we're owed happiness, or even God's blessing. So, I mean, I do not know about you, but many times as a pastor, I see people come to church with an entitlement mentality, and that's very annoying. That's very amazing. And you could have experienced it in different places. Or, I mean, there was a day that I called someone, or someone called me and said, "Oh, he needed some money. He was going to bury his mother." And so I said, "Send me a account number." You understand? And this is a call. He called to send me, and I said, "Send me account number." So I mean, I didn't remember on time, so he now sent me a chat. I said, "Okay, I reminder, oh, send me account number." You know. So when I did the transfer to him, you know what happened? He just said, "Alert seen, thanks." My head almost went off. My head almost went off because I wonder that does this guy think he deserves this money I sent to him? Does he think that he deserves what I had given to him? Or did he really walk into my hands and I gave him? I mean, imagine I give someone 100,000 naira and all you could just do was a 4 second text. I mean, for naira, you just text. And then you could just give me, oh, I'm grateful. That's all, you know. So I just see that a lot of people are entitled, and I do not know what an entitlement mentality is. Or maybe you think, oh, this guy should have given me 1 billion naira. You understand? I mean, for what? you know. And so people come to church, and in fact, it becomes a major problem for pastors because majority of the people who come to church actually come with an entitlement mentality that they want to even use the church. So it becomes a major, major issue, and that issue becomes stuff. You understand? Where so we live in a world because I mean, which people change their phones every 2 years, or they change jobs maybe every 18 months, or they even change relationships when they feel that relationship's not meeting their needs. So we live in a world that thinks about the fact that you know what, if I can't get something from something, I am not going to be involved in anything any longer. And slowly, without realizing it, we have done the unthinkable. We have been raising people to become consumers of Christianity instead of making them followers of Jesus Christ. We're making people to not understand that the heart of the gospel stands in direct opposition to the spirit of entitlement. You understand? I mean, the gospel is all about ensuring that you receive the finished works of Christ, you know, and if we do not have that understanding, we could have churches that are full, we could have busy ministries, but we'll have minimal transformation. And that's the reason why you have all these mighty, mighty programs, mighty, mighty Christian evangelistic programs, you understand, in December, in January, and yet there are few, if not limited, transformation in the society. Why? Because many people come to the table with an entitlement mentality. So an entitlement mentality is what keep this churn alive. Is that it what makes people slowly take away Christ out of everything and says that if a church does not feed me, I'm going to leave. You understand? If a church does not bless me, I'm going to leave. If I do not get anything from that church, you understand, I'm going to leave. And that's the same thing. And this is a major problem that's been on. In Luke chapter 18, there was a story about Jesus Christ talking about a Pharisee who stood and someone else who was praying. And the Pharisee said, God, I thank you that I'm not like that robber, I'm not like an evildoer, I'm not an adulterer, or like even this tax collector. You understand? I fast twice in a week. I give a tenth of all I get. You understand? So, I mean, he comes to God with what? A template of self congratulations and so he comes to God with all his spiritual resume, he comes to God with all his moral discipline, his religious diligence. He believed that he had earned God's approval. He felt entitled to be in God's presence because of everything he has done, the tithe he has paid, or the fast that he committed. You understand? But that's not what. But the other man came and said, God, have mercy upon me, I'm a sinner. He says, he brought nothing to claim. He said, he didn't bring any list of achievements. He had no bargaining chips, as it were, only a desperate need for mercy. And Jesus concluded that this man, rather than the Pharisee, was justified and went home with the blessings of God. So we must understand that this is exactly why many people do not get being blessed by God. You understand? You see, many people stay in the same conundrum. They are not moving forward because they have an entitlement mentality. They come to the office, you understand? They're not coming with an with a servant mentality. They're not coming to serve. They say, "Oh, I deserve my pay." You deserve your pay. Somebody else has offered to give you a job. You understand? And he cannot even talk to you because you're entitled. Uh, I've seen too many things. Now, I think that the entitlement mentality is what has kept many people from becoming everything that God created them to be. And they will never access the grace and the mercies of God because of the fact that they come to the table with an entitlement mentality. They think that that God owes them an approval because of what they have done. Because you showed up in church does not mean that God will bless you. You understand? I mean, you have to understand all those things. And that's why people that have an entitlement mentality will never get far with God. They never get far with God. And many churches inadvertently, you understand, we promote a spirit of entitlement for the people. You understand, oh, make them go because they have given tithes, or they've done this, they've done that. I don't know. If we do not stop the entitlement mentality, it would destroy the fabric of the message in which we preach. you know. And I think that many people, because of the entitlement mentality, they become so destructive to the fact that they could become an avenue by which Satan could use to disrupt your plans. And if you want to achieve everything, like I said earlier on, you must understand that you must kill the entitlement mentality. You must come to the table, not out of a sense of self adoration or adulation or self worth. You must come to the table with the Father God. You know what? No man can receive anything except be given to you from God. No matter how great my righteousness is, no matter how much I've said no, I've kept myself away from iniquity or from sin or from adultery or from lying or from murder or from doing everything. That is not that's self-righteousness. I do not come to the table because of the things I did or did not do. I come to the table based on the finished work of Christ, and that changes everything. So now let me give you 8 points in which why how the entitlement has destroyed discipleship in the church. You understand? Now, if you're not careful, we have a church culture, and we become. Some people will say that I only go to a church if I'm fed. Yeah, no, if I'm fed. Are you supposed to go to a church because you're fed, or you're going to go to a church so that you could add, become a blessing? Or, oh, I serve if it fits my season, if it's okay for me to serve, or I give if I see the return. You understand? Now, we have an understanding that everything exists to serve me. It's all about me. Now, that's an entitlement mentality. And that's not the gospel. And the gospel is not about you. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. It's not about you. The church does not exist to serve you. People, your organization does not exist to serve you. It's not about you. So do not have any entitlement mentality to think that, oh, without you, the organization cannot survive, or without you, the church cannot survive, or without you, oh, we cannot do well. You're just a vessel that God could use. And if God decides to use another vessel, you're gone. You are gone. You understand? So many times, because these things, if you're not careful, like I said in my point, you understand, entitlement has become like a subscription model. It's like Netflix, you understand. I binge watch maybe a sermon, I binge watch prayer sessions, you understand. I skip obedience because of the Father. It's okay because of, but I want you to know something, that Jesus Christ said something. He said, follow me, but he also said, count the cost. Not because it's going to be beneficial, he's going to count the cost. When Jesus said we should come and follow him, actually said we should come and die. You understand? So we're not subscribing to maybe a model, or we're subscribing to a church, or subscribing to a life, or to even to marriage. You understand? Because a lot of times I think that people go into marriage with a subscription model. If it serves me, I will leave. You understand? If it doesn't serve me, then I'm done. I hear it so many times. Oh, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. As if marriage is supposed to be, marriage is supposed to serve you, instead of you to serve your spouse. You're coming to end. So those are the things that we need to alter. And because of that, because we have a subscription model, you understand that if it doesn't serve me, I will stop subscribing to this thing. I will stop subscribing to marriage. I'll stop subscribing to a relationship. I'll stop subscribing. We go to the table because if that thing, if something's not beneficial to us, we're done. You know, or if we don't see the benefit, we're done. We're not raising up men and women who can come to the table not for what they can get, but for what they can give. So they're asking themselves, oh, what is in it for me? Instead of, what does God require of me in this season? Why I should do so? Many people are no more disciples of Christ. They are now what? They are now subscribers to the gospel of ease and of comfort. And it happens, and that goes on to everything. I can't change my phone every 2 months, but I cannot change my wife. I cannot change the relationships I have involved in. Why? Because it's not a subscription model. You understand? I mean, that's why in those days marriage ceremonies, we say that things like, for better, for worse. You understand? I mean, now it's for better, for better. No, for worse now. You understand? What's worse is done. We're done. We're done. We're done. You don't hear people pay the price. And because they cannot count the cost, they cannot do those things. We're living our lives in such a way that culture determines the kind of results that we get. So there's no difference between those who go to church and those who don't go to church, because everybody's having a subscription model to life, to marriage, to relationships, to work. You understand? Nobody's paying the price that, oh, it's just, if it's not beneficial to me, I'm done. No. What if God said you should do that thing for a while? I mean, one of the lessons I gave you one time when I spoke um about the prophet who God told him to go and marry a wife was an adulterer. It wasn't because it was beneficial to him. It wasn't. Obedience may not be beneficial to you. If God says you should do something, it may not be beneficial to you. But if God said it, you understand, you're going to do it, and that's it. So Christianity must leave the subscription model and enter into a model in which we're dedicated. Now, the other thing is that the other point I want to bring out, that entitlement defines maturity as comfort. You understand? Basically, maturity looks like endurance. Culturally, or biblically, maturity looks like endurance, but culturally, it looks like convenience. So you hear believers say, I've been saved for too long to serve like that. I cannot, I mean, I used to serve like that many years ago. I cannot serve like that any longer. Or I've gone past that kind of correction. Or I shouldn't have to struggle anymore. You understand? I mean, those are the kind of things that make people quit the gym. People quit gym not because they're injured, but because progress requires discomfort. Likewise, churches and people must understand that we must not lead people in maintenance, we must lead them in transformation. Comfortable Christians rarely change the world. Comfortable Christians rarely change the world. And the people who are going to change the world are going to be comfortable. And it's not just going to be about the fact that it's about comfort or convenience. No, our Christianity should not be about comfort, about convenience. And we must teach that, especially in churches. We must see that life is not about convenience. The greatest people, the people who do mighty works, they don't live in convenience. They live They live out of inconvenience. I mean, let me use the sports analogy. I use this so many times. Cristiano Ronaldo, work ethic, 100%. Why? Is it comfort? Is it comfort that after a hard game in the winter, he would have a cold bath? Try it. Try it. It's not comfort. But for him to be able to produce at the same high level, what does he do? He makes himself uncomfortable so that he could produce something high. Christianity is about making yourself uncomfortable so that Christ can walk through you. Now, the third point which I'm going to bring out to you is that entitlement makes offense a reason to leave a place instead of to grow. You understand? So in our culture, once someone offends you, the next minute is that you exit the place instead of examining what happened, what took place. But scripture actually teaches offense as a mirror, as a pruning, as a test of humility. So maybe your spouse offends you, you're done with the marriage, you're gone. I have pastored for a while. I have seen a case in which a spouse, listen to this, a spouse accuses his wife of adultery. Now, I punish the wife. And this man comes to me and says, you know what, this is my wife. I do not like this punishment you're giving to her. And what was the punishment? I was just saying, you know what? I mean, you committed a sin. I'm going to punish you because that's what the church expects us to do. So do this. And the wife was completely, but the wife said, the husband said, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that. I've seen a situation where a man divorces his wife because the wife decided to look at him anyhow, or looked at him maybe like, who are you? And the wife says, she disrespects me. And I really wonder what's really more disrespectful, adultery or or facial looks, but maybe. So offense is not a reason to leave a place because someone offended you, and it happens maybe in your offices, or somebody offends you, I just leave the office, or someone offends you, and you leave the church. I mean, offenses happens. But what happens is that what you should do is that you should look at it and ask yourself, and look at the mirror. Oh, well, this person, what did the person do? Should I look at myself? Did I do anything that to predispose this person to doing those things? Or should I ask myself that what if I had done a different action, would that thing still have taken place? Or many times, just like a test of humility and saying, you know what, maybe I'm also human. I could also have done that same thing and forgive the person. But without with the sense of entitlement, you can never be able to take that kind of action. You will never be able to take that kind of action. You will look at every offense as simply, let me exit that place, let me exit that marriage, let me exit that relationship, let me exit. I mean, it's so easy to leave, but it's so difficult to build. And that's why I'm asking you, do not come to the table for what you will get. Oh, my wife doesn't love me. Fantastic. Or my husband doesn't love me as much as he does, and then I'm going to exit the relationship. No, you're not going to exit the relationship. For me, as far as I'm concerned, you're going to ask yourself that, oh, what have I done? Like a mirror, what have I done to ensure that my husband or my wife doesn't love me? Or is there any action or any act in my life, any behavioral tendencies or decisions that allowed or as festered someone disliking me? Or finally, maybe I'm just not good enough. You understand? It's a test of humility. You understand? Not that. And now ask myself, well, what can make me better? What can make me better? If my wife says or my husband says I'm not cooking the right or the best kind of meal, just like, how do I accept that as a lesson and understand that I could do it better? Instead of just existing and say, I'm done with this marriage. I'm tired of hearing people keep up on life. I'm tired of, and that's the reason why, because people are entitled, they actually give up on life. They actually give up on God. They have, oh, my mind, my social mind, oh, my mental health, my mental mind, my mental health. No, because it's a sense of entitlement. A sense of entitlement. Sense of entitlement. Somebody should do something for you. If the person doesn't do it, then hold on to your future, hold on to yourself, and ensure that you're going to do this for yourself. Now, I think that the fourth point I'm going to bring to you is that, so maybe I should say this before I leave the fourth point. I said, when people date, they always say that if this stops working for me, I'm gone. In marriage, people will say, let's work through this, even though what's broken. And many times people date relationships or churches or people, but never have covenant with the body. You can never grow deep roots in constantly uprooted soil. It's like every time, oh, I leave this church, I go to another church, I leave this church. I've seen too many people become so entitled. One man once said to me, he said, "How do you know the real people in life?" He said, "Stop the benefits. Whoever stays, oh, they used to give me this, they used to give me that." I've seen people leave churches just because you stop giving them. You just stop giving them too much access to yourself, or you just stop giving them too much leeway, and they leave. Not a big deal, not a problem. But just entitled people. And entitled people cannot change the world. You don't need people around you who are not going to be world changers. Like we say in our church, we need world changers, and world changers have to destroy the spirit of entitlement. The world doesn't owe you any favors. Life doesn't owe you any favors. You understand? The only person whose approval you need is the approval of the Almighty God, whose you are and whose you live for. And that's just all. Now, so the fourth thing I want to talk about entitlement is that it shifts the cross. It shifts the cross from center to decoration. You understand? The cross was never meant to be an inspirational act. It was meant to be an execution device. When the Bible says carry your cross, it means that, like, you know what, I'm supposed to be a dead man. And this is where I think that many Christians, and if we understand what the cross actually means, you understand, he would you will understand that the cross cannot be shifted from the center of our lives, from which we live from, to a decorative piece. He says, whenever you understand, the cross was supposed to be a remembrance of the fact that you're supposed to be a dead man to things. You know, it's not a logo, it's not a jewelry, it's not a theme, it's not a lifestyle. But we cannot forget the fact that we must die to self. We must understand that out of our brokenness can come blessing. We cannot get glory without surrender. Now, a crossless Christianity is a powerless Christianity. A crossless Christianity is a powerless Christianity. So, what does that mean to you and to I in marriage, in home, your lives? You understand? The cross is that you are dead. You are dead. You're dead to a lot of things. Yeah. Look, even the philosophical people of the world says that to be happy, you say you have to be like the proverbial monkey, hearing nothing, saying nothing, and doing nothing. You know, and I'm saying to myself, I said, the people that actually would leave, especially concerning marriages, concerning having a great home, concerning having a great life, concerning having a great time in churches. It's one thing. You just got to get it right. Is the fact that you got to be dead. You must be dead to self. You are not living for self-optimization. You are living for that yourself must die because Jesus must be Lord. And the Bible talks about the fact that I'm crucified with Christ. Therefore, the life that I live is no longer mine. It must be Christ's life that comes out of me. And Christ's life cannot come out of you unless you're a dead man. And that's the reason why it's only dead men that could have beautiful homes. Why? Because offenses will come, but you're not going to exit because of offenses. Your wife annoys you, or your husband or your spouse annoys you. You're not going to leave the home. You understand? Because someone annoys you. No, you're going to work through it. You're going to forgive. No matter how big the offense is, you will learn to forgive. There's examples in the Bible and in life of people who are forgiven. When Jesus said concerning disciples, and that's one of the things about Jesus' disciples. He said, that, and I've said it before, that about a man, about a lady who was a nurse. And that story really got to me, you understand? And I've used that analogy so often, that her parents were killed during the Ottoman War. And one day she was a nurse, she was trained as a nurse, and she saw the guy who led the killing of her parents come into her hospital, and at the end of the day, what she did was that she worked so hard, she worked overnight, far beyond what she was required of her, to ensure that that person would survive. And something happened. When the doctor came in the morning, the doctor said, "Oh, this lady did so much for you." It's as if that she wanted you to leave, you know. And so the wounded soldier now asked the lady, he said, "Why did you go out of the way for me?" He said, "Do you know me?" He said, "I don't want to say, yes, I know you." I said, where do you know, where did you meet me? They said, "Look, you were the one who led the soldiers to come into my house to kill my father, my mother, and my elder sister." And the man looks at her, with the Muslim man, and looked at her and said, "Then why did you allow me leave? It was time for you to do justice to me." He said, "I'm a follower of him who said, do good unto others." and do good to those who despitefully use you. So, but you cannot follow the instruction of Jesus if you're not dead to self. But yourself will be clean, will be shouting revenge. Yourself will say, this is my opportunity to kill her back. Yourself will say, yes, he who lives by the sword must die by the sword. You understand? So I must do this, and nobody will know. You had an opportunity to kill some who killed your parents. What did you do? You obey Jesus' words and command. That's what followers of Jesus do. That's what world changers will do. That's what the people that will transform this world will do. That's what the people. That's what Christianity is all about. This is not about taking revenge. It's about making sure that the cross becomes the center of our lives. We're dead to the world. We're dead to the pleasures. We're dead to anything. We do things not because of how it will pleasure us. We do things because we're living in absolute obedience to the word of our King. Now, so the fifth point I want to talk to you is that entitlement creates a performance-driven faith instead of a submission-driven one. And that's why we live in a world of that talking about performance. And I like results, and I mean results are really good, are good metrics to determine efforts. But in life and in Christian faith, the greatest result is whether you have obeyed the voice of the one who actually gave you an instruction. And until you obey the voice of the one who gave you an instruction, whatever you do doesn't really, really matter. So when entitlement takes root, people start keeping score of I have done this, like the man said, oh, I've done this, I did this, I did that, or others deserve to step up. You understand? I come to church and I'm the only one doing all the work. You understand? Nobody's doing it. Even the pastor is not working as hard as I'm working hard. Oh, I deserve rest now. I've done enough. I've just done enough. It's an entitlement culture. You understand? So the scoreboard is that, but you know what Jesus said concerning the man, the if in Luke chapter 17, he said that when you have done all your work, you say, oh, this is what's required of me. You understand? That's what Christian is all about. That we don't keep score of the work we have done. We keep faith with our adherence to the commandments that we have been beckoned on. So we don't keep scores. Oh, I've done this, I've done that. I don't know. Whatever you have done it because why? Because you're in obedience to Him. That's all. So you don't keep score of the things you have done. So keeping scores of everything you have done is an entitlement mentality. So oh, you deserve this, you deserve no promotion. I pray one church they say that people are promoted because they say they pray 12 hours in tongues. Crazy. Let me leave that. So I go to the sixth point that talks about the Father. Entitlement replaces mission with preference. The early church asks a simple question: how would we reach the world? But the modern church asks the question: how do we keep the crowd? Now, if you do not understand the difference between the two of them, you will not understand the impact the two have actually made. So one talks about the crowd, about pleasing the people. The other one talks about pleasing the king. And the two cannot have the same kind of result. So it's like having the restaurant mentality. When people go to restaurants, they don't ask, what is this church sent to do? They ask, is this church my style? Is this restaurant my style? I mean, am I eating amala, or am I eating Chinese, or am I eating continental food? That's the restaurant mentality. Now, the mission of the church is not built around preference. It's built around sacrifice. You don't choose your mission. You submit to it. You submit. When Jesus said, go into the world and make disciples, you submit to it. You submit to it. You don't say, oh, I'm going to make this kind of disciples, I'm going to make funky kind of. No, no, no. You submit your mission to the one who called you. Is that okay? Now the seventh one is that if we do not kill entitlement, we will be producing spiritual tourists, not spiritual soldiers. You know, whenever you go, whenever you travel anywhere in the world, what the tourists do, they observe, they look, they admire, and they go. And many people come to church. They admire our preaching. They admire the word. But they do not go to the world to transform and change it. They're not thinking of the kind of impact they can make. Why? Because they're spiritual tourists. They're just tourists. They're just looking for the places that best suits their pleasure. Oh, you understand? If Disney does not suit me today, maybe I will go to the French Riviera. If the French Riviera does not suit me today, I will go to the Bojarap. You understand? They're just looking for places where the pleasures can be fulfilled. So they're spiritual tourists. You understand? So tourists can critique, but soldiers really endure. You understand? The soldiers really endure no matter how, whether there's a rain, there's no rain, there's sun, there's sun. No, the soldiers will endure. So tourists consume stories, but soldiers become stories. Tourists consume stories, but soldiers become stories. So that is why Many people want front row seats to revival, but they do not want trench responsibility. But Christianity only works when we believers understand that we're not spectators, we're enlisted soldiers. That's why in our church we call them warriors, 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 warriors. I wrote a book called The Kingdom Triad. It's just about the father who must be warriors, who must be priests, who must be warriors, and who must be disciples. The three kingdoms, these are the with these three things. We must both be kingdom, we must be priests, we must be warriors, and we must be disciples, the kingdom triad. And I think you should read that book on Amazon. So we're not spectators, we're warriors, we're soldiers, we're being enlisted to the army. Now, so I will not leave here without giving you what I call the cure for recovering a theology of surrender and of stewardship. You understand? And is that Christians becomes our faith can become effective again when we replace entitlement with stewardship, when we become stewards of what God has given unto us. We do not live for pleasure, we live to steward the things that God has given unto us. We instead of being comfortable, we go into our calling. Instead of preference, we ask what's our purpose, and instead of churn, make a covenant with the Almighty God. You understand? Jesus had every right to opt out of the call. You understand? I mean, they looked at Gethsemane. It was so difficult. He said to himself that he was sweating and he had blood like sweat upon his body. I mean, he was going into so much. He had every right. If it was only just about preference, it was like he said, "Not my will." Christianity must rediscover not my will. That it's not my will. That we don't live for ourselves. That we do not live for our pleasure. We live because we're stewards. As a father, you're steward of the growth of your children. As a spouse, you're steward of what? You're steward of your marriage. Therefore, your marriage, you want to make sure that your marriage does not fail. In your offices, you're steward of the name of Christ. So whenever you go there in the model, you're modeling him. You're asking, would anybody look at me and love Jesus? Because you're a steward of the name of Christ. Now, we also change our comfort for our calling. So we're not just about our comfort. We're saying, no, God called me to do this. God called me to do this. We're not seeking comfort. We're seeking the call. We're seeking what does God want me to do. You understand? I mean, we go into places that are tough and difficult, but not because it's comfortable, but because of our calling. Remember the soldiers of David that went into that broke through the ranks of the Philistine and went to get the water in the wells of Bethlehem. It wasn't comfortable, but they had a call that their master needed something, they needed water, and they broke through for them. And that's what kind of people that Christians, the kind of Christians that will transform this world is all about. We don't live for our preferences. We have easy preference, or we have modern preference, or we have songs preference, or we have different. No, we don't live for preferences. We live with for purpose. And what does our purpose say? Bible says, "For this was the reason why the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil." So we live for the purpose of God, that the works of the devil in the lives of men can be destroyed. And finally, we do not just churn. We do not just churn everything. We don't churn marriages. We don't churn relationships. We're in covenant relationship. We do not. We do not. We do, I mean, there are times we may even be in an office, not because of the fact that it's convenient for us or we like it or they even pay well, but because we're in a covenant with God and because of us, God's going to try to reach one or two people for his name's sake. Now, Jesus stayed not because it was fair, not because it was easy, not because love demanded this right, because he laid everything down. Not my will, was from his words. So the question I want to ask you that you can change everything about every entitlement, maybe in marriage, you understand? Because I see entitlement in marriages, I see entitlement in the offices. Oh, I mean, I worked in an organization that the people were so entitled. Everybody was entitled. I said, no, 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 no. These guys came to Nigeria. They came to give us a platform and a job. You understand? I mean, they could decide not to complain. They could decide to work out. So it's not, and when if they pay us, it doesn't fine good. If they promote us, fine good. We're not entitled to anything that they do. I mean, we just do whenever we get our salary, we'll be faithful and loyal servants. Like Jesus said in Luke chapter 17. That's all. We're not. I mean, that's how to think about it from the Christian perspective. So the question you ask is not that is this marriage working for me or is this relationship working for me? You understand? Because that's the question that people are asking. Oh, if this relationship not working for me, then I leave it. No. Well, the question is, am I submitted to Christ enough for his power to work through me?
Am I submitted to Christ and to God enough for His power, for His glory to walk through me, to be seen through me? You understand? So wherever I go in my marriage, am I submitted to Christ? So I don't enter into marriage, or young men want to enter into marriage that, oh, if it doesn't work for me, I leave. You understand? It's crazy. That's a churn mentality, not a covenant mentality. So instead of having a churn mentality, let's have a covenant. We're going to stay there. Like you said that. I mean, I mean, it's like the story of Ruth. You know, so when she said to Naomi, said, "Your people, my people, your God will be my God. I will be with you wherever you go. I will go. Wherever you die, I will die." You understand? It's a covenant. We're inside a covenant. People don't do covenants again. We just have a churn mentality in the church, in life, and it permeates everything. And therefore, the results must be different. And you wonder why people think about mental health issues, because we're not created for that. We're created for covenants. We're not created not to uprooting our marriages anyhow. You understand? I mean, just take an example. You have Coke, you have Fanta, you pour it together. That that's how it is. How do you separate Coke and Fanta? You don't separate it, you just divide it into two, and everybody goes their separate ways. Then you now have on that one, you now change it maybe with one red item. Everything changes, not black. I mean, you just look at life and you begin to wonder, I say, what's going on? So when entitlement dies, the power of God will return back to your life. When surrender rises, the church becomes dangerous again. And the world doesn't need a more entertaining church. The world needs a crucified church. And that's what God has helped us. And God is helping us in our church. And we made up our minds that we're going to be a crucified church. Not us, but Christ. Let Christ live through us. So thank you for watching today's episode of 20 Minutes with PK. And if this teaching spoke to you, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us to reach more people. And remember, keep transforming people, impacting nations. See you same time next week. God bless you.